Hello everyone and welcome to card 1 of my Spring and Easter card making series. So for today's card I am using images from the CC Designs Spring Has Sprung stamp set, and I inked up this little egg image with Memento Tuxedo Black ink and stamped it onto CC Designs Copic Quality 110-pound cardstock. And for coloring, I'm using my Copics, and I started with the eggs and I laid down just some colorless blender just to dampen the area I was coloring. And then I'm just dabbing the Y21 marker right onto the egg, no blending or anything. And then I'm going back with the colorless blender again, the 0, just to give it a more mottled effect. It's like, because it kind of presses the ink deeper into the cardstock. And then I go back with my, this time it's the Y23, just a shade darker, and dab that around. And then I'm taking the Y26, which was my darkest shade, and dabbing that. You don't have to be precise with it. I try to keep it within the lines. You don't have to worry too much when you're using a heavyweight cardstock like this, as the color just kind of sinks deeper into the cardstock. But I start with the eggs just in case if I do go outside the lines, it'll be easier to press the color back in with the colorless blender or a different marker. So I did the same thing with the second egg. And then for the background, I'm keeping kind of to the same style of coloring, just dabbing on the colors, not doing any actual like shading or blending or anything. So I started with the BG10 and then I did the BG quadruple 0 and then the triple 0. And then for the grass, I'm just flicking in the color. I started with the G24 and then I go in with my G94, which is a fair bit darker. And again, just flicking it in, nothing too fancy. And then finally my G99, which is my darkest. So yeah, once I've got the grass colored, for the base of it, like for the ground, same thing, just dabbing on the colors. It just makes it really quick and simple. You wouldn't even really need Copics to do this. You could do this with any type of marker, really. And then for the flowers themselves, 2 of them I'm coloring pink, so I did RV25 and then added the little bit of darker areas with the RV29 and then just blended those together again with the 25. And then for the blue flowers, I'm using BG13, so laid that down and then used my BG15 for the little darker areas and then blended them together again with the 13. And then the little spot that went outside the lines, I just took my BG quadruple 0 and pressed that back in the cardstock, and that took care of it. And now I'm using the little sheep image. This is from the CC Designs, the same set, the Spring Has Sprung set. And again, Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Stamp it onto a piece of the CC Designs cardstock. And then to color in this image, I'm using my warm gray markers. So I laid down a bit of a base with the W00, which is my lightest, onto the face, the ears, and her little legs. And then adding in some of the shading in the darker area with the W1. And then I'm using W3 as my darkest. And then to blend the W3, I just go back with my W1, blend those a little bit. And then once I've got that, I blend everything together with the W00. So just like so. Once I've got that for her actual like fleece or fur or whatever, doing the same technique, just dabbing on, starting with my lightest with W00, going with W1, and then W3, and then going in with W5. So once I've got that, I go back with the W00 just to kind of give it a little bit more mottled look. Kind of press the colors in, give it a bit of texture. Super simple. So then for the little hooves, I just used my darkest, which is the W3, laid that down, added some W5, and then blended those together with W3. And then G94 and G99 for the little leaf of the flower. And then the flower itself, I colored in with BG13 and BG15, same as with the eggs. So once I've got that, add a bit of the darker with the BG15, and then hardly blended them at all because the marker, the ink is still wet, so they kind of just blend themselves because they're so close on the spectrum. Same thing with the little bow. I used the same colors as the pink flowers, RV25 and 29, and then lightly blended those together. That's all there was to it. So I used my Spellbinders, this is the Labels 11 dies, and we're just kind of fiddling with layout and whatnot. Tape that in place, ran it through my Cuttlebug. So once that's cut out, I'm using this is some Stampin' Up! I think it was Soft Sky cardstock I pulled out. It's just in my stash. I had a kind of a layout in mind. I'd pre-cut my pattern paper. This is from the My Mind's Eye Miss Carolina Doll Up 6x6 pack. And then I grabbed some old, I think this is Kiwi Kiss cardstock from Stampin' Up. I need to label some of my colors because all these new in colors I can't remember the names of. Anyway, I grabbed my Martha Stewart. This is the Grass Edger Punch. I don't even think it's available anymore. I bought this a couple of years ago. But you can use like a grass die, even scissors, whatever works. So yeah, I had to lay it out in my head, kind of how I wanted things to go. So I adhered the pattern paper to the card front with my ATG adhesive. So I've got that in place, and then I wanted to use some ribbon. So I grabbed some of my AmyR. This is the sheer yellow polka dot ribbon. So wrapped that around the card front, tied it in a bow, trimmed off the ends, and then it's just a matter of fiddling the ribbon around a bit so that I get the bow where I want it. And then the little main image there. So once I've got that how I want it, I'm going to adhere the main image down to the card. So just like so, kind of keeping things fairly simple. Once I've got that adhered down, it's a matter of kind of fiddling with this little grass piece I'd cut. So I trimmed it down a fair bit because I didn't want it to overwhelm like the whole card. And then just adhered that into place. And then for the little sheep, I wanted him to stand out a little bit more. Her, him, whatever. So I grabbed some of my dimensionals. These are the ones I buy from Jody Morrow. As always, links to everything will be in the description box below the video. So once I've got that, I've got the little sheep adhered down with dimensionals. And then for the sentiment, I pulled out my old, this is the Spring Sentiments stamp set. And I inked it up with the Brilliance Graphite Black ink. And then I heat set it so it didn't smear. And then I just grabbed a 1 1/8 inch circle punch. It's by EK Success. I've had it for eons. So I grabbed that to punch out the sentiment, and then used dimensionals again to adhere this one to the card so it's popped up as well. So just like that. And then for the last little bit of embellishments, I just grabbed another Martha Stewart. This is the Butterfly Trio Punch, and just used one of the pattern papers from the My Mind's Eye pack and adhered those little butterflies into place. And that was it for the card front. So I used just some acid-free tape on the ends of the ribbon on the back of the card front. It just makes it easier for the ATG to glide over it so it doesn't get caught on the ribbon. And then adhered that to the card itself, which my card base is the CC Designs, again, the Kobo Quality 110 pound cardstock. And y'all know I couldn't leave it without adding some stickles. And you can see I got a big glob. If you move quickly, you can scrape it off and salvage the card. That's what I did. I had turned off the camera so I didn't show that. But yeah, you can just scrape it off really quick and it didn't leave any residue or anything. So once I fixed that, went back in and started adding stickles to the image. And of course I had to bling up the flowers. I couldn't just do those little dots. And then added that to the flower of the sheep. And then thought about it for a second and added it to the bow too. Because really, why not? So that was the card front. Once I got that done, it was a time to go on to the inside of the card. So I grabbed the largest Labels 11 die because I wanted that for a place to write something on the inside of the card, and I didn't want to leave it plain, so I just grabbed the little flower stamp from the Spring Has Sprung set and stamped that onto some white cardstock, and then colored it exactly the same as I did on the front. Used the same colors, everything. So once I had that colored, lined up the die so that it'd be kind of in the little lower corner. Die cut that, and then just used some pattern paper from the Miss Carolina dolled up pack. So kept it really simple, nothing too fancy, just so the inside was finished. So got the pattern paper adhered the white piece so there's somewhere for the sender to write something, and then adhered that to the inside of the card. So that's all there was to it. And like I said earlier, links to everything will be in the description box below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!